this is Kathy of kathysright.com and welcome. I'm glad to be back with you today with Kathy's Right, and I hope you're keeping up with my blog and my podcast. I'm on YouTube on my channel, Kathy's Right, and I'm also on Facebook, Kathy's Right, and also under Kathy Hatch. So check me out, comment there if the comment section here doesn't work. I've been working on it, and I've gone through YouTube and Google trying to figure out how to make that comment section work on the YouTube, but none of the fix-its are working. That's okay. We'll figure it out. Meanwhile, have you ever had a panic attack? Have you ever had that uncontrolled feeling where you lose control, you can't breathe, you feel like you're going to die, your heart's beating really fast, and your hands have become contorted? Many, many years ago, I had several of these, and it was devastating and embarrassing. It almost crippled me. It made me afraid to leave the house because I thought I would have one of these things because there was no rhyme or reason for them. There was no trigger. It was just out of the blue, and it didn't make any sense. The first one, of course, someone called the ambulance because you don't know what's going on. They don't know what's going on. They see you sitting there, you're sweating. You can't breathe. It feels like a heart attack. Although I didn't know exactly what a heart attack was. I didn't feel any pain in my heart. I did feel pressure, and it was a frightening thing. And then when they told me that was what it was, I was really embarrassed. I was thinking, what kind of crazy person am I that I had a panic attack? And then it happened again. This time, I was told to breathe into a bag and inhale in a brown paper bag, and it was going to help me. And it did help me. But I did find better ways to cope. And I'll tell you about that a little bit later. But panic attacks, I found out that they were a lot more common than I thought. I had never really known of anyone who had one. And then it turns out I did. It turned out a lot of people in my life have had panic attacks. They just don't talk about it. I think it's a little embarrassing. Everybody thinks you're just a little bit cray-cray if you have had a panic attack. And mine was for sure that. I don't think it's a sign of weakness. I mean, I haven't had one in years, but I definitely don't think that it's a sign of weakness. It's something that's triggered in your brain, and my brain adjusted. And one thing that really helps during a panic attack, if you've ever had one or if you ever will have one, was for me, Lamaze. I did my Lamaze breathing at the very beginning because you get these little signs at the very beginning. And the Lamaze breathing techniques rode me through, and it never was severe ever again after that. Because you do the exact things. You start off with the breathing up, 1, 2, 3, down, exhale, 1, 2, 3. If you Google it, I'm sure you can find the exercise. It's really helpful if you ever know someone or if you ever have a panic attack. USA. Here in our country today, we are in a panic attack. Nobody knows anything about this virus. They're learning every day, and the information changes, which is why we're all so scared, because we are actually overly informed. And if you have your TV on all day, every day, as sometimes I do, I leave it on whether I'm watching it or not, you can get pretty scared because all day long it's little bits of information coming out, itty bitty information bits at a time. It's never quite enough information, but it is just enough to scare the bejeebus out of you. So it's just not healthy for me to watch it all day. I'll turn it off, I'll turn it on, I'll switch to some music, or I'll just have silence. And that is good. I'm not very productive in silence. I tend to be very meditative in silence. I love silence. But noise, I stay very busy. So that's kind of why I keep the TV going. But like I said, it's very possible for anyone with anxiety disorders or any kind of anxiety issues. If you leave that television on all day, you're going to feel worse and worse all day, every day. And the best fix for that, I think, is prayer. And exercise-wise, I think the breathing techniques of the Lamaze method, and a man could do it just as easily as a woman. It's just breathing, really. And it teaches you how to calm yourself down during a period in your life, like when you're having a baby, where you don't have any control over anything. When you have a baby, when you go through childbirth, you have no control. The only thing you can control is breathing. But for me, the Lamaze method was useless during childbirth completely useless. All it did, I think that's why they encourage everyone to take it. All those practices did for us was to keep me from cussing everybody out around me and to keep me more complacent for the doctor and nurses. So if I'm doing this, then I'm not saying, oh my God, I'm not cussing everybody out because like I said before in one of my earlier podcasts, I am not one of those warm and glowy moms. I was like, oh, my poor husband. I went from heaven to hell really quick. One minute I was cussing, and the next minute I was praying, oh God, oh God, oh God, and then several curse words. And then, when my mom was there, I think for 3 of my childbirth, no, 2. She was there for 2 of my childbirths, my last 2, my sons. And the first 2, my 2 daughters, I cussed like a sailor. Then it's, oh God, I love you. And then I cuss like a sailor. It would just go back and forth. And so it was like heaven pulling you up from above and Satan pulling you from below. And they're stretching you to capacity. And that's how labor felt for me. Then when my mother was there, I can't cuss in front of my mom. And if I even came close to it, during my labor, she'd just say, Kathy, and that was it. Dang, gosh, that was hard. But you know what? It was almost easier because I was so much more concerned about not offending my mother than I was as much about the pain. Plus, my boys came out really fast at 3 hours labor. I mean, they were, but then I was a well-oiled machine by then because my kids were very close in age. My daughter was, my daughter was 6 when Courtney was 4, when Daniel was 2, and Robert was born. So I always had the little ones like that. So I had them really quick, and I think that's why I had such really fast childbirths. And I was very, very lucky because when I hear of women who said they had 26 hours, 23 hours, I said, you gotta be kidding me. That's gotta be crazy because I don't think I could have handled it for 23 hours. So all I can say is the reason I brought these things up is because I think this period of time in our history, this moment in time in our country, I think we're either going through a panic attack or we're in the transition period of our labor. That's what we're doing. This is totally different. There's no touching, the distancing, the quarantine, the staying in your house, everything has changed. And I don't think it will ever go back to what it was. I was looking at an old movie, not even old. I'm saying old to you now, but it really was like from 1915. And I'm looking at how everybody's, hugging and they're having playful times and everybody's touching each other. And I never noticed how much people touched each other in movies until this pandemic. I think it's kind of interesting. I'm like, wow, look how close they are. If they only knew, 6 feet. And I wondered what will our movies look like 6 years from now? Will we be looking at movies from now? No, actually, nobody's making them. Right now, we're all living under, old movies that were made, right before this pandemic. And so we are experiencing change, but change altogether. And we can make it for the good of our country. We don't have to make it for the bad. Like I said before in Silver Linings, the silver lining here is maybe people will think twice before getting too intimate in a relationship too fast. If that's the only silver lining, I think that'll be worth all of this, because think of all the unwanted pregnancies they'll have because they won't be having abortions. And if you save one life, I think it's worth everything, because to save the life of an innocent child, and I'd go through this all over again. Just in Texas alone, we're going to save 4,600 babies just in this time period that no abortions are allowed. Same in Ohio. I don't know their number, but I hope more governors follow suit, because they say, and I agree, that it is an elective surgery. And if so, we're not doing those right now at this point. We have to keep all of our resources for people with the coronavirus. And I think that's very wise. Although I'm not sure about the numbers. The numbers that we're getting, they make them sound really large on TV. Actually, they look really large on a large TV. But I'm not sure compared to the flu if it's really all that bad. I'm just saying, compared to the flu last year even, the numbers aren't even there yet. But another silver lining, like I don't know if I brought this up before, another silver lining is the fact that people are staying apart means there will be a lot less flu and colds going around. So that'll save lives too. So this social distancing might do a world of good. On the other hand, there are a lot of people not working who need to work. People always talk about paycheck to paycheck. Well, that's the majority of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. And we're lucky to have those paychecks. So this is not good for them. They don't have necessarily 6 months savings in their bank account to allow them to take time off of work. Their work covers their bills just so. And so they are hurting right now. And not all of them have families and support systems. So if you know somebody who has a job that some skilled or non-skilled worker could do, there's got to be a way for you to reach out, or maybe just tell your friends and family that you have an opening in something that a person with other skills might be able to acclimate to, because that would be a kindness that you could give to people in this country if you're in that position. Another subject came up this week. A friend of mine was saying that her mother is Catholic and she is not Catholic anymore. And she said that she wants her mother to respect her choices. And I said, great. And that's wonderful. And she doesn't understand why her mother is just so upset. And I tried to explain to her, I said, okay, think of it this way. And most people think nothing of it. If a Jewish mother said, I want my son to match and marry with a good Jewish girl, or my daughter to marry a good Jewish boy, nobody would think anything of it. They would think, that's their culture. That's their mom. That's the thing. Well, Catholic moms feel the very same. We feel like, we invested heavily in our children being Catholic. We couldn't wait for the day they had their first communion. We couldn't wait for their confirmation. And then hopefully a beautiful Catholic wedding. And then when the child goes to another denomination, we know we're never going to get that and probably won't get to go to our grandchildren's first communion or baptism. Maybe if they're Christian, we might get to go to their baptism, but maybe not confirmation or first communion. So all I could say to her was basically, you have a right to your beliefs. We all do, and your mother too. But as a mother myself who I suffer the pain of my children going away from the church. Try to be kind to your mother. You don't have to believe as your mother believes. That's not required of you. But bare minimum, just be kind to her and understand that her pain is actually real. It's not that she loves you any less. It's just that was part of her hopes and dreams for you since you were an infant. So if you could just go to Mass with her every once in a while, it would go a long way in just making her happy. You don't have to, like I said, you don't have to believe what she believes. Just do it to honor her and to be kind. You can go back to your church that you go to with your husband maybe or your friends, but the commandment to honor your mother and father applies here. Do it a couple times a year. It's not going to kill you. Nothing's going to hurt you or harm you by going into that building and sitting next to your mother. It would be a kindness. It would be charitable. It would be loving. So why not honor her? And if you are still a Christian, I think that's one of the big 10. So I got that lesson from Dr. Laura. I'm not going to lie. Dr. Laura, she got a call, and there was, I think it was a guy, and his wife, he wanted his son to be, it was the guy calling. His wife the wife wanted the baby to get a baptism, and he didn't want the baby to get a baptism because he was Jewish and she was Christian. I don't know what denomination, doesn't matter. But anyway, she was Christian and she wanted the baptism, and he said no because I'm Christian and she should respect my faith. And Dr. Laura told him, this Jewish guy, she said, well, if you take your baby to the church and they baptize your baby, what are the actions of the baptism? He says, well, either they dunk him or they pour water over his head, something like that. And she says, now, would that water actually harm your child? And he said, no. And she said, so what harm would it be for you to do that for your wife, have your baby baptized, if you don't believe